Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1092B, and today's date is October 4th, 2016, and the title of the episode is U.S. Government is Now Ready to Take Everything to the Next Level. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, a couple of weeks ago, Yahoo came out and they were saying that they were hacked, and of course they were using the story, the propaganda that they were hacked by Russia. They didn't confirm it, but they kind of leaked it out saying it could have been Russia, and that's how they used the propaganda, and then everyone thinks it was Russia. And they were saying that 500 million email accounts were hacked into, and we can see right now people are like, oh, see, Russia is coming after the United States. And they're starting to, hack into the election system, hack into Yahoo. And of course, we know this is an inside job. Now, very interestingly, Yahoo just admitted that they built software secretly to search all of its customers' incoming emails for the U.S. intel officials, NSA, DHS, FBI. And Yahoo was saying, well, the reason why we did this is because we're a law-abiding company. What do you mean a law-abiding company? Because the government says, let me spy on the people. You build software to allow this? What about the Constitution? What about the rights of the individuals? You violated the people. The government doesn't have the right to do this without a warrant. And of course, they didn't have one. So the propaganda the U.S. government central bankers used was that Russia hacked 500 million Yahoo accounts. And everyone, ooh, oh my God, that's terrible. And of course, it's propaganda. But Yahoo and the U.S. government hacked all user accounts. And nobody has a problem with that. Well, everyone should have a problem with that. The government is continually spying on the people. And we're seeing more and more documentation come out, more and more information come out, that they're spying on everyone. We're seeing that the Department of Homeland Security, through the Freedom of Information Act, that they were spying on and tracking American citizens who visited gun shows across the country. Well, how did they do this? They set up license plate tracking systems. They recorded the license plates at the gun shows, and they're able to correlate and track them wherever they go. And we can see right now what they're doing is a violation of your rights. They're spying on everyone because we know the government is very worried about those individuals that have weapons. And they're doing whatever they possibly can to map out who has the weapons. Now, they're spying on law-abiding citizens. They haven't done anything. They went to a gun show. They wanted to purchase a weapon, maybe to hang up in their home, to use for self-defense. But that doesn't give the government the right to spy and track these individuals. Actually, it's a violation of the 1986 Firearm Owners Protection Act and the Second Amendment. So we can see right now the government is spying on everyone in all aspects. This is the biggest threat to the government, the people. When the people decide, listen, this government is corrupt, not working for the people, and the people say, you know something, we need to clean out the government and start over, this is their biggest worry. Because they have a nice little thing going up in the government. Limousines bringing them around, insider information, deals with corporations, free money from the central bank. They have one set of laws, we have another set of laws. I mean, if you go back in time, it's starting to look like Washington is the kingdom And we're the peasants. This is what it's turned into. And it wasn't supposed to be this way. It was supposed to be these individuals were supposed to be working for we the people. But they're working for we the corporations, we the foreign governments, their self-interests, for profit, for the central banks, everyone but the people. And now we see the U.S. government is pushing climate change, which used to be called global warming, but when winters got so cold, how do we explain away that things are warming up anymore? So they called it climate change. Now we know the climate always changes. The sun controls most of the climate here on Earth. And they're starting to use climate change. And of course, remember, Obama bypassed Congress to push the climate agenda forward. But they're coming out with a lot of information, and they're warning governments that this global warming, this climate change, is going to have an effect on the world and on the people. And what they're saying, and this is coming from a 13-page report from the nation's intelligence agency, who just adopted this whole global warming, climate change thing. And they're stating that climate change can fuel terrorism. Really? So the United States government central bankers paying mercenaries and putting them into Iraq, putting them into Libya, supporting them, supplying them with weapons, having and creating the Islamic State to spread out throughout the Middle East. That had to do with global warming, climate change? No, that had to do with the U.S. government central bankers. The creation of the moderate rebels, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, the rebranded al-Nusra, al-Qaeda into al-Sham. That had nothing to do with global warming or climate change. That's the U.S. So these terrorists are receiving weapons because of global warming, climate? No, they're receiving weapons from the United States. They're saying there's threats to the stability of countries. No, the threat to the stability of countries is because the economic system is falling apart. Look how they created this to make you believe this is why this is happening. Heightened social and political tensions. Well, the reason why that's happening is because the system's falling apart. A lot of people are unemployed. A lot of people are unhappy. They don't like the governments right now. They don't like the central banks. Protests are happening all over the world where they're protesting the central bank, protesting the TPP, protesting the TTIP. It has nothing to do with the weather. Extremism. Same thing. The adverse effects on food prices and the availability. This is because the dollar is losing value. Monsanto and other companies are playing around with our food systems. Other countries don't want our food systems. Negative impacts on investment and economic competitiveness. Really. So what we're seeing right now is a lot of propaganda coming out of the government. A lot of this is trying to explain away what is happening in the world. And what's happening in the world right now is that the United States, through the central banking system, is creating these problems. We know we had a UN report. They're creating the refugees. Actually, they said global warming creates the refugee problem. No, it's the United States who implemented sanctions on Syria, who went into Libya, who went into Lebanon to keep their petrodollar system alive. Created war and placed puppet governments in these countries where the people are fighting back. All these countries are now in deep war. People have no place to live. It is all created by the United States. It has nothing to do with climate change, global warming. It all goes right back to a single country group, which is the United States government, the central bankers. Period. The end. Now, governments around the world, they continually use the propaganda that the people need governments, because what they do is they create these programs. They get more people relying on the government for aid of some sort, and they keep using the idea that the people need them. Well, it's the opposite way. The government, it needs the people. And we do have proof of this, because out in Spain is without a national government right now, because neither party is able to secure a majority of seats in the national legislature, and the two parties are unable to agree on a coalition government. This is for the last 10 months. Spain has had a do-nothing caretaker government for the first time in history. Basic government services, they're continuing, but there's no new legislation being proposed. There's no foreign policy in place. Many infrastructure and other government projects are frozen. And there were predictions that things are going to be dire, there's going to be chaos. But we're seeing the opposite happen. Everything is proceeding smoothly. And the Spanish people, they're learning a valuable lesson right now about the resilience of society when it's left to its own devices, where they have to do things on their own. And this is exactly what the Founding Fathers wanted. They didn't want the people to be dependent on government. They wanted the people to be self-sufficient. That was the whole thing. The government was supposed to be a caretaker to execute the will of the people. And what we've learned in Spain is that no government, no thieves, no criminals. Because right now, the people are saying, you know something, we don't need them. We don't need a government to tell us what to do or to live. If we do it on our own, we're very successful at it. When the government intervenes, this is when problems occur. And we can see it. Look, the government here in the United States says, we're going to help you out with health insurance. Has it really helped? No. The government says the central bankers are going to come in and make the economy great. Has it made it great for the entire country? Has infrastructure improved? Do we have peace around the world? We have no more poverty in the U.S.? Everyone has a job? No. So we can see right now, government, they need the people. We don't need the government. Now, out in the Philippines, we see Rodrigo Duterte. He, once again, told Obama to go to hell when he was giving a speech on Tuesday. And we can see right now the U.S. is now pushing a little bit to tell Duterte to calm down or else. And we see that the U.S. is putting a little bit of economic pressure on the country of the Philippines, just like they did with Venezuela. Because we're starting to see the Philippine markets, they have been heavily sold down. We see a slowdown in the remittances from Filipino workers overseas, which have historically been a big driver of growth in that area. And we can see the U.S. is using their influence to get Duterte in line. Now, if this doesn't work, they will take it to the next level, and we will see a call for him to resign somehow, some way. Most likely, we will see protests, then riots, and then there'll be a coup d'etat. Because the U.S. wants this area. It's strategic. They need to encircle China for World War III. We see out in South Korea, legal experts are planning a constitutional challenge against the U.S. THAAD anti-missile system. They're saying there's no reason to bring this in. We don't need it in South Korea. We'll have to see how that goes. Most likely, it's going to go nowhere, and the South Korean government and the U.S. government is going to put the THAAD system wherever they want. We see in North Korea, Members of the U.S.-based task force are calling for Washington and its allies to change their approach to dealing with North Korea. Instead of sanctions, maybe we should try a different approach. Now, Mike Mullen, a retired U.S. admiral and former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, along with former U.S. Senator Sam Nunn, who is now co-chairman of the Nuclear Threat Initiative, led a recent task force of regional security experts to develop a new strategy that would reinvigorate the peace process on the Korean Peninsula. Now, going back a year or so, North Korea extended a hand and said, listen, we would like to have the peace talks once again with the U.S., and the U.S. declined. Now, is this going to work? Most likely not, because the neocons, the central banks, will not let it happen. They need North Korea because they need to start a war. They need them in this position. And most likely, we can see that they're pushing for some type of regime change. And if they can't get regime change, the war will be started. But we can see right now they're never going to go along with this plan. Even Russia was out there telling the U.S., we need to rethink this. We can't just place sanctions. Actually, Obama told us that sanctions don't work. And every time he says sanctions don't work, and we remove them from Cuba, we remove them from Vietnam, all of a sudden, he places sanctions on Russia, places sanctions on China, places sanctions on North Korea. So he's speaking out of two sides of his mouth here. We see U.S. Assistant Secretary Nuland is going to arrive in Russia to have discussions about Ukraine and the Minsk deal. And last time, Victoria Nuland was out in Moscow, then stopped over in Ukraine. What happened a month or two later? We saw Kiev making a move into Crimea, trying to create some type of false flag where they could start a war. Now, every time Victoria Nuland goes out there, we know something is about to happen, and this is something to watch. We understand that the U.S., President Obama, needed Vietnam, that's another strategic location, decided to go out there and make deals with Vietnam, even though Congress is saying they have incredible human rights problems in this area. Maybe this is something that we shouldn't do, but the U.S. central bankers don't care about that right now because they need Vietnam on their side. They need the encircling of China. So already we see 2 U.S. warships. They've docked in Vietnam for the first time since the war, in a move which is expected to cause further tensions in China. This is what they wanted. We see the USS Frank Cable and a guided missile destroyer, USS John S. McCain, entered Vietnam, and they are docked there. Now, this is to show China that, look, we can bring warships into this area. You are encircled. Provoke, provoke, provoke. We see the Russians. They understand right now where the U.S. government central bankers are going. They're pushing war. World War III. So Russia right now, they had a nuclear disaster drill. 40 million Russian citizens, as well as 200,000 specialists from emergency rescue divisions and 50,000 units of equipment. They're taking part in a 4-day-long civil defense emergency evacuation disaster preparedness drill. They understand the central bankers will take this to the next level, which is war, then nuclear war. They know it's coming. They've tried everything. But the U.S. government central bankers, they don't want peace. They don't want ceasefires. They want Syria. They want Iran. They want Ukraine. Give it to us, or else. So we see the U.S., UK, France, Italy, Germany, they are meeting to talk about Syria. What's their next move? We see the U.S. is ready to cooperate with the terrorists to overthrow Assad. And we see the U.S., they will not be fighting in Raqqa to remove ISIS. They decided, you know something? Let ISIS have Raqqa. We don't care. Well, of course they don't care. They're the paid mercenaries. Just hold on to that for us. Instead, they're going to move the troops into the battle in Mosul, because what's happening over there is the people are rising up in Iraq. They don't want the puppet government. They don't want the U.S. there. And what we're seeing is the U.S. is actually fighting against the people in Iraq. And what we're seeing right now is this entire system, just like in Libya, just like in Yemen, just like in Lebanon, like in Iraq, it is all falling apart all at the same time. A threat to the petrodollar. We see the Obama administration. Well, they're going to be talking this Wednesday about U.S. military strikes against the Assad regime. So we see top national security officials will be meeting with Obama to push war forward. Now, is the U.S. just going to come out and hit Assad, hit the Syrian troops, hit Russia? No, they just can't come out and do that. They did do it, and then all over the world, everyone was saying, what just happened here? You just went to war with Syria, and this is why they had to back down. This is why they had to apologize. They need to make it look like Syria or Russia created the incident and Syria and Russia attacked the U.S. How they're going to do this, this is what we need to watch. But we can see right now, there will be an event, a situation where they're going to turn this around. I mean, just as soon as they broke off diplomatic relations, they blamed everything on Russia. And of course, it was the U.S. that actually did this. The U.S. attacked Syria. The U.S. never separated the moderate rebels and al-Nusra and al-Qaeda. The U.S. was hitting the infrastructure in Syria. The U.S. was hitting hospitals in Syria. The U.S. backed the Islamic State. But what they need to do is they always need to turn around and make it look like it was the other country or another group that did it. And they use propaganda to make everyone convinced that this is the way it is. Unless you've been following it very closely, people will just believe it. But we know better. So Russia is taking no chances. They're bringing in the S-300 V4, an advanced anti-ballistic missile system, to Syria, and the anti-2500, and they're placing it in Syria. More of these, because they understand the United States government central bankers. They're preparing for war. They're preparing for the next event. And this event is going to be huge. We already see that someone's been hacking in to the emergency alert system. And we know, maybe a year or two ago, we talked about how Obama created an alert system where he can get on the TV, or the next president, or any other U.S. government official can get on the screen and tell everyone we're under attack or something's happening. And we can see right now something is being done to the emergency alert system. And the authorities are looking into it. They don't know exactly what's going on, but we know a lot of the hacking and a lot of what is going on is from the inside. So they can take control of the system when they need to. And who knows, maybe they hacked into it to show that North Korea is getting ready to bomb, and we'll see a message from North Korea, or maybe even Russia or China. We don't know yet. But we can see something is about to happen. All the indicators, economic, geopolitical, political, they're all coming together right now. The system is ripping itself apart. And everyone needs to be prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.